Happy coding.
Hey there, Kevin here, as always, with our next video in our series on Intro to Web Dev. In the last video, which I am doing these kind of in rapid fire, but in the last video we learned about for loops, which let you repeat work and have a single line of code or a couple lines of code that you run over and over again that can output something like, 1,000 things in your page with just like a single for loop. So we're going to build right on top of that and get into arrays, which is a new type of data that can hold multiple values. So they work really like hand in hand with for loops, and they let you sort of process data without needing to do the same thing over and over and over again. So that's what we're going to work through. So I have my trusty Scratch background here, or my not background project here, and it doesn't really do much. It's basically the same thing I was using in the last video, except I took out the for loop, and I currently just have a UL with an ID of output, and then I have a code that does, well, nothing. So I can say like output element dot inner HTML plus equals. I'll just give it like a single li for now. Hi. And I'll close that out and refresh and see what happens. All right, so I have hi. This is just my Scratch code that I use just to talk through stuff. Okay, so in order to talk about arrays first, let's just kind of give ourselves a little example. That's kind of how I think about things, but bear with me. So let's say I have, I don't know, I want to make a zoo and I want to add some animals to my UL here. And I want to do that in JavaScript. So I can do that. I can say output element.inner HTML, and maybe I'll store them in variables at first. So I'll say like, I don't know, let animal1 equals, I don't know, cats. Let animal2 equals snails. And let me type without being able to see my keyboard because the microphone's in the way. And finally, let animal3 equals, you guessed it, bees. All right. So I can use that code just like I have been in the last few videos, where I use the string concat operator or append operator to include my variables. So for now, I'm just going to test that the first one worked. And indeed, I see cats in my zoo. Maybe I'll zoom in. Okay. And I can keep going. So I'm going to say output element dot inner HTML plus equals li. And you can already sort of tell this is a little tedious, a little annoying. Animal2 plus slash li. And you have likely worked with code like this over the last few weeks. And then I'll just save that and refresh, and sure, there's cats and snails. And finally, I'll just kind of copy paste this, even though probably shouldn't, but whatever. Animal2, animal3. All right, so I have animal1, animal2, animal3. And if I refresh, I do indeed see cats and snails and bees at my world famous zoo. And this works, but it has the same kind of problems that we've seen in other kinds of code, where let's say I wanted to add a class here. So I don't know, class equals animal. I would have to do that in 3 places. And imagine if my zoo had 100 animals. That would get really annoying. So instead, what I can do is use a new type called a array, or an array. And an array is a new, it was a new type. And by that, I mean, we have variables that are strings here. We have seen variables that are numbers. So like let current hour equals 20, it's like 8. And we've seen like booleans. So like let is late equals true. And these are types. So number, boolean, string. And the next type we're going to talk about is an array. So what I can do with an array is give it multiple values. And what that looks like is I'll say let, I don't know, animals and an equal sign, and then a square bracket. So a square bracket. It's actually the same key as a curly bracket, but it's you don't hold in shift. My fingers know it better than my brain does. Yeah, you don't hold in shift. And I'll close out my my square bracket as well. And kind of similar to how I always close out my opening symbol whenever I write it. And inside of these square brackets, I can include multiple values that I separate with a comma. So what that looks like is cats, comma, snails, comma, and bees. And at the end, I don't need a comma. I think you can include a comma. It's optional, but I usually don't. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of these. And so now, instead of having separate variables, animal1, animal2, and animal3, I have a single variable, which is a type of array, and that holds multiple values, multiple string values in this case, and I can use it. I can use this array just like I can use a variable, but the big difference is that I need to index into the array. So here, where I had animal1, I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to say animals, and because it's an array, I'm going to use the square bracket, and inside of the square bracket, I'm going to give it a index, and I'm going to start with 0. In JavaScript, arrays are 0 indexed, which means cats is at the 0th index. And that might sound weird, but it's a I don't know, kind of a computer sciencey thing where arrays start at 0. So I have 1, 2, 3 elements, but they are at index 0, 1, and 2. So I'll say animals 2 and save that, and finally refresh over here. And maybe I should add one just to maybe I'll change from snails to lizards just so I can actually see something that changes in the page. And I'll refresh, and indeed, there we go. Okay, I see cats, lizards, and bees. Sorry, snails. And I'll sort of zoom out and look at this code, and it's not much different from what we had before, where the big difference is instead of having animal1, animal2, animal3, I have animals, and it's an array. And then instead of using animal1, animal2, animal3 down here, I use animals at the 0th index, animals at the 1 index, and animals 2 at the 2nd index. And this is, different, but it's not actually much better because we're still just using, each individual value on its own line. But aha, if only there was a way to repeat like similar work where something like only a number is changing between each line. And have you seen any concepts that you might use for that? If we were in person, maybe I would make someone raise their hand, but we're not. So hopefully you can guess that the answer is a for loop. So I'm going to write a for loop, and I'm going to say let index equals 0. Index is less than, and in this case, I could go less than 1, 2, 3 because I can count them. But if I don't know that ahead of time, I can say animals.length. So this is saying keep looping until you reach the end of the array. And then finally, index plus plus. And I'll close out my parenthesis and then open a curly brace, give myself some white space, and close out my curly brace. And inside of my for loop, what do I want to do? Well, I want to do basically this, where I take my output element and I modify its inner HTML by adding an li tag with the animals at index. So if you think about how index starts at 0. So the 0th element is cats. So it adds cats to the inner HTML. It increases index by 1. is 1 less than animals.length? Well, the length is 1, 2, 3. 1 is less than 3, so it outputs lizards, goes back to the top, index plus plus, so now it's 2. It checks, is 2 less than 3? Yes, it is. So output element.inner.html plus equals li animals of 2, which is bees, because 0, 1, 2. And then it reaches the bottom, goes back to the top, increases, so index is now 3. And it checks this, is index 3 less than animals.length 3? Is 3 less than 3? No, it's not. And it skips this line of code, goes to the bottom, like the closing curly brace, and then keeps going. It would keep going if you had more code here. So let's save that and refresh, and maybe I'll change this back to snails, maybe, just to see something change when I refresh it. And I'll refresh, and indeed, I see cats, snails, and bees. Man, I'm getting jealous. I kind of want to go to the zoo. And the power of this, the beauty of this is now, let's say I wanted to add some animals. I could do that. I could do that pretty easily by just modifying my single line of code up here. So I'll add my lizards back in. I'll add, I don't know, a possum. Why do I choose animals that are hard to spell? And that should be an S because I want more than one of them. And I don't know, dragonflies. Is that how you spell dragonflies? That's probably right. And one more. If we were in person, I would say yell an animal at me. So yell an animal at me, and if it's what I choose, you get I don't know, $1. I'm going to choose hippopotamus, but I'm going to spell it hippos because hippopotamus is impossible to spell. So I'll hit save, and I just added 1, 2, 3, 4 animals, and I did that in one line of code. And if I refresh, indeed, I see all of these beautiful creatures. The other power that this gives you is now it's really easy to change what's happening inside the for loop. So now let's say I wanted to add a class. So I'll say class equals, and I'll just say, I don't know, animal. And now I can style that in my CSS dot animal. And maybe I will give it, I don't know, I'll give it a border because I always do. Thin, solid black. And this time I'll give it like a margin of, I don't know, 5 pixels. And I'll give it some padding while I'm here. Why not? 5 pixels. And I'll save that. And sure, I had to write out this. That's more than one line of code. But here, I didn't have to add this in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 places. I only had to modify a single line of code. And now if I refresh, indeed, they are styled with my beautiful border and the margin and padding. All right, so that is basically how arrays and for loops work together. You can specify your data in an array, and then you can use a for loop to process it, and you don't have to process each one individually in your code. You can write a for loop that handles like the general case of what do I want to do for every element in my array. So to, I don't know, close this out or to evolve this, I'll just talk about a few things. So with arrays, there's a few ways to like figure out what's in them or to add stuff to them. So here I'm just kind of hard coding a list, but you can also call a function. So this is animals.push. And in this case, the function takes a argument, which is a new value. So this is, I don't know, this is how you add a value to a array. So let's say I'm running out of animals, is what I'm trying to think of right now. So I don't know, I want some spiders, and I'll say animals.push, and I also want some worms. All right. So now if I save this and refresh, I do instead see my spiders and my worms. They're right next to my face, and I love it. And so this animals.push function lets you add stuff to your array over time. And this is handy if you're like getting input from a user, for example. You can add to your array after your user gives you a value. I won't get into that whole thing, but you could do it that way. And there's many, many, many array functions. So if I go to a search engine, I type in, I don't know, JavaScript array functions, there's a bunch. Here is MDN, here's JavaScript in W3 schools, and sure, I'll choose this one. Looks like I haven't done this one before. And yeah, look, here's a bunch. So here's length, which I already talked about a little bit in the for loop. Here's push. Let's see. This isn't all of them. Let's go to this. Complete. Maybe. And yeah, okay. So there's a bunch. So here I could reverse my array if I wanted to. I could do things like, let's see, sort. So if I wanted to alphabetize my animals, that looks like it might be fun. So let's just try that just to see. So I'll say after I add all of my elements, I'll say animals dot sort. Sure. And before it was just kind of random in whatever order I could think of them. And if I refresh now, it's alphabetical. And again, this is the power of JavaScript, of arrays in processing data. You can do different stuff. And again, as always, I've said before, like I don't expect you to memorize every single array function. Instead, you can look it up. So if you're wondering, hey, is there a way to do, fill in the blank? Is there a way to find a specific element in my array? Well, yeah, there is. But you can figure it out by searching for the functionality that you're looking for. So that's just kind of the general idea of array functions exist. You know to sort of look them up. The next thing I'll do is I'll talk through other ways to get arrays. Hey, that rhymed. And by that, I mean, this example is going to be a little weird because I'm adding it to my existing example, but whatever. Let's say I had some p tags and I did not come up with these ahead of time. So I'll say something like, maybe I'll just have some animals that are like, this animal is cute or this animal is dangerous. Sure. So give me a cute animal. All right. Someone said hamsters. How do you spell hamster? Is that? Oh my God. Hamsters are cute. Sure. /p. Another p tag. Let's see. I'm tempted to be like political and be like humans are dangerous, but whatever. Y'all know that. Give me another cute one. I'll say, roly polies are cute. All right, now let's do a dangerous one. P. I feel guilty. Like maybe I shouldn't choose. I won't choose dangerous. I'll choose slimy. So I'll go slugs are slimy. Not that an animal can't be cute and slimy, but hey. So I'll do another one that is maybe another cute one. Kittens are cute, sure. And one more slimy one. Snails are slimy. I already have a snail in my zoo, but hey, that's fine. So I have some p tags. That's all they are. I'm refreshing, and sure, I see that my p tags are here. Cute, cute, slimy, cute, and slimy. And let's say I wanted to do something with these p tags in my JavaScript. So I can do that. And we've seen the document.getElementById function. There's a new function called getElementsByTagName. So to do that, I'll say like let, I don't know, p elements equals document.getElements, like plural, getElements by tag name. And I'll give it a argument of p. And what p elements gives me is an array. It's an array of these elements. So what I can do is create a for loop. So I'll say for let index equal 0. I don't know if it's going to yell at me about having another for loop. Probably not. We'll see. Index is less than p elements dot length, and then index plus plus. And I don't know, let's say I wanted to do like p elements dot style dot border equals, again, like thin solid black. Sure. Okay. And I'll save that and I'll run it and then we'll talk through what it just did. And of course it didn't work. Why not? Oh, that's because, oh man, I said p elements. Of course, what I wanted was p elements of index, because p elements is my array and I'm indexing into the array. So if I save this and refresh, now I see indeed I have my p elements. I have looped through them using my loop, and I've done something with those p tags. So I can make this a little more interesting. I could say something like, oh, I don't know. I want to check whether each one is cute or slimy and do something. Sure. And so I'll use an if tag, an if statement. So I'll say if p elements index dot inner text. And what I want to do here is check if the inner text contains either cute or slimy. And if I don't know how to do that, which I don't off the top of my head, I'll say JavaScript string, like contains another string, maybe. And okay, looks like I'm looking for the includes function. Different languages call these things different names, so I always forget. But okay, it's includes, so dot includes, and I'll use an argument of cute. And where am I? Close out my parenthesis, open curly brace, close it. And here, maybe I only want to have a border around my cute ones. So if I refresh now, I see hamsters are cute, roly-pollers are cute, slugs are slimy, kittens are cute, snails are slimy. And I could maybe add an else statement here. Else, and maybe I'll add an else if statement and I'll do slimy. Sure. So else if it contains slimy. Now I want to, maybe I'll give it like a green border. Ooh, green. Lime, maybe. That'll be horrible on pink. Ugh, it's horrible to look at, but it's there. So you can imagine maybe giving it a more reasonable color, or doing something reasonable at all. Okay, so it's hard to see, but I have black border and a green border. You can imagine other interesting things. But the idea is that I'm getting an array, and that array gives me, in this case, all of the elements with p tags, and then I can do stuff. And notice this is maybe not intuitive the first time you see it, but I have a for loop, and I can put any amount of code inside my for loop. And what I have inside my for loop is an if statement. And I have an if and an else if. I could also have an else, like if an animal is not cute or slimy. I could also do something different if it's cute and slimy. I won't do that because that gets more into what we were learning about last week. But now we are sort of building all of this up and combining it into like this more involved code. Okay, so I think that's where I'll kind of leave it. We now have learned how to use arrays, which give us multiple values or hold multiple values, and use for loops with those arrays to do some repeated work, which lets you do really powerful stuff because you can make a change in a single place, in a single line of code, and have that reflected in hundreds of places if that's what your data looks like. And you can also go the other way and add data to your array without needing to change the code that handles the array, because it just handles every single element without worrying about how many are in there. So that's kind of the power of it. We will keep going in this sort of series. And in the next video, we'll learn about objects, which is just yet another way of organizing data. But until then, I will say thanks for watching and happy coding.